Bismillah.
الحمد لله رب العالمين أفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أما بعد. This is the second portion of the famous book Umdatul Fiqh by Abi Muhammad Abdullah bin Ahmed ibn Qudama موفق الدين شيخ الإسلام الحافظ من أصله المقدسي رحمه الله تعالى. We're going to proceed from the part of the book Kitab al-Siyam, the book or the subject matter fasting and those people who are exempt Mufradat al-Siyam, those who can break their fast. But before we proceed, I want to go back and just mention quickly what we covered. The Shaikh in the beginning, he said, يجب على كل مسلم الصيام شهر رمضان يجب على كل مسلم, that fasting in the month of Ramadan is an obligation upon every Muslim. And then he gave descriptions. He said an aqilu, the one who has his intellect, والبالغ, the one who has reached the time or age of puberty. And we say time or age because everybody comes into puberty at different stages in their life. But Islamically, there's a cutoff when it comes to age. And then the Shaykh, he says, qadirun ala sawm, and the person is able to fast. Qadirun ala sawm, the person is able to fast. And so if you go back, there's a big argument whether or not the opposite is relieved of the obligation, because the Shaykh, he said, Siyam Shahr Ramadan, fasting in the month of Ramadan. So number one, Siyam Shahru Ramadan. Shahru Ramadan. Shahru in Arabic means yani month. Ramadan is the name of the month. So if we break that down, you have Shahru, month, and Ramadan. They said the word Ramadan comes from the word Raman. Raman means something to extinguish the fire. And the alif and the noon zada alayhi siqatul mubalagha makes the word Ramadan. Siqatul mubalagha means something takes a special form to really bring and drive the point home of that word. So Raman, to extinguish the fire. Ramadan, to extinguish the fire of the fire that you could reach in the hereafter because of your sins. So it's a way to remove the things that would put you in a situation where you don't go to hell, and the term metaphorically, you're extinguishing your own fire. Ramadan. Shahru is month. And there is a narration which is a lie, fabrication. Imam al-Bukhari, he brings it in his Sahih, in his authentic narration, Sahih al-Bukhari. But he brings it in order to make the refutation clear on those who say you cannot say Ramadan by itself. For example, I say Ramadan is coming. Ja'u Ramadana, Ramadan is coming. He said you can't say that. You have to say Shahru, put the month in Arabic, and then say Ramadan. So you have to say Ja'u Shahru Ramadan. The month of Ramadan is coming. They said because if you say Ja'u, which means coming in Arabic, Ja'u, something is coming. Yani Ramadan is the one who's doing the coming. If you say Ja'u Ramadan, they said that's wrong. لأن من أسماء الله Ramadan, because Allah from His names is Ramadan, the one who extinguishes the fire. That's a fabrication on the Prophet. From the names of Allah is not Ramadan. And we find the Prophet saying إذا جاء Ramadan, when Ramadan comes. So we know you can say Ramadan. And the Prophet also said إِذَا جَاءُ شَهْرُ Ramadan. When the month of Ramadan comes. So, when Ramadan comes, it's permissible to say why? Because the Prophet said it. When the month of Ramadan comes, it's permissible to say it why? Because the Prophet said it. As for Ramadan coming, that's not proper because Allah, He is Ramadan from His names. That is a fabrication on the Prophet. The Shia, they say it. From the Sufiya, some of the Sufiya, they say it. They use it. And it's a fabrication. Please put those phones on silence, inshallah. So that's a point we need to mention because somebody might make an argument. Actually, you can't say Ramadan, that's Allah's name. You got to say Shaykh Ramadan. No, this is a fabrication of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Also, the Shaykh, he said, Siyam Shaykh Ramadan yajibu ala kulli muslimin. It's an obligation of every Muslim. So some scholars said the opposite must be understood, that fasting in that case, then it means it's not an obligation on the non-Muslim. I ask you, is fasting the Ramadan that we have, is it an obligation on the non-Muslim?
No.
Will they be questioned about fasting on Ramadan, why they didn't do it on the Day of Judgment?
No.
Will they be punished for not fasting the month of Ramadan on the Day of Judgment?
No.
Is it a sin on them not to fast in the month of Ramadan?
No.
Some scholars differ. They said because of their disbelief. لأجل كفرهم وشركهم
That's right now.
لا يدل على أنه لا عليهم. He said it's not a proof because they disbelieve and they make sure that it's not an obligation on them. But the biggest thing that will incriminate them in this life and hereafter is their kufr and shirk. And you'll find in the Quran, Allah Azza wa Jal talked about the people of the fire and the people of the Jannah. They will have a conversation on the Day of Judgment. And the people of the Jannah will say, مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرَ. What landed you in the fire? Now remember, these are kuffar and believers. May Allah make us of the believers. Amen.
Amen.
And save us from kufr.
Amen.
With shirk. Imagine, we from the people of Jannah. May Allah make us from them. Amen. We're on the Day of Judgment looking at them saying, man, what landed y'all in the fire? Some of them are relatives. Wala hawla wala quwwata illa billah. Allahumma musta'an. Some of them are mothers, our fathers. We pray that's not us and the people of Jannah asking us. مَا سَلَكَكُمْ فِي سَقَرَ. What landed you in the fire? They said, لَمْ يَكُنْ مِنَ الْمُصَلِّينَ. We did not used to make the salah. But they're kuffar. So this is a proof that some of the scholars use to say, Siyam Shahr Ramadan yajib ala kulli Muslim. The fast, the month of Ramadan is on every Muslim. That the opposite, Siyam Shahr Ramadan yajib ala kulli kafir. The kafir have to do it too, but guess what? They don't do it because they disbelieved in Allah. They abandoned it. They will be accountable on the Day of Judgment. That's how serious the issue for fasting is. And if it's that serious for them and they kafirs, how could the Muslim miss a single day of fasting? He know he has to fast. How about the Muslim didn't fast for months in his life? 25 months of Ramadan he lived, Mafish Siyam, he never fasted. His whole life, he abandoned the fast in Ramadan. Can you imagine? Let Allah Azza wa Jal admonishing to us when He mentioned the fire be a reality for us that we, if we live to see it, treat the Ramadan serious. Ameen. So I wanted to bring that point because it's not in the book, but this is some of the, when you read the big books and they talk about this, they bring in all the this juicy debate back and forth, and it's a benefit for us. A lot of times we don't get. Also, those who are sane from the Muslims, the Shaikh, we said there's two types of insanity. What are the two types? Quickly. You guys will hear.
Temporary and long term.
Long term.
Permanent, yes. Temporary and permanent insanity, yes. So if a person's permanently insane, and it could be because he didn't take his meds today, fast is not an obligation upon him. Why? Because he has to have the sanity. And that person who's permanently insane, it's not upon them. But on the day of judgment, they will be given examination. They will be given examination on the day of judgment. If they obey Allah, they pass the examination, they go to Jannah. If they disobey Allah, they fail the examination, they go to the hellfire. And this is the proof, those who argue about the issue that actions are not more important than your aqidah is more important than your actions. Sometimes we debate that. Because Allah is going to tell them one thing on the day of judgment: jump into the fire. Imagine, you're retarded, you come on the day of judgment, Allah said jump in the fire, a real fire. And you see Allah, your Lord, you can see him. And you say, I'm not jumping in that fire, you gotta be crazy. He tell you jump in that fire. You can see Allah. You know he is there. You know he believes all of the whole of creation is there on that day. Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha. The Prophet said the people will be barefoot, naked, and uncircumcised. Imagine this day when you see butt cheeks and this and that and wudu and that, privates and stuff for Allah. In the street, Prophet said, cast out ariyad. They are clothed and naked. We know that fitna. And if I know y'all do, because y'all can say, alhamdulillah, I'm puzzling even hada. Praise be to Allah who saved me from that fitna by taking my picture. Imagine the day of judgment. People don't have on nothing. And she said, wait a minute, you mean people going to be standing with no clothes on? Because in this life, people looking. At least you looking at nudity. At least. He said, Ya Aisha, Yawma Urkamat min Hada. He said, the day, the affair, what's going to be happening on the day is so great, nobody's going to be concerned about that. That day, Yom Qiyamah, imagine the retarded one comes, Allah says, jump in the fire, and he jumps. Allah's going to make the fire cool for him like Ibrahim. When he was thrown in the fire, Allah commanded the fire, be cool for my servant. It looks like he's burning, but guess what? He's in the fire untouched. Then when that person come out, he obeyed Allah. Allah said, Udkhul jannati, go to my Jannah. You have passed. This is the issue of the one who wears tart, that's you. The brothers on the door security try to listen to benefit. Sakumallah khair. Well, don't leave your post. Then the one valley boy has pubic. We said underarm hair, private hair, wet dream, and 15 are the standards for determining pubic. The boy 15, funky as a donkey, got hair on his arm. He's got to pray. Pubic has reached him. Private on his hair, private hairs on his private is 7 years old. He's got to pray. He's responsible. None of that happened. They have a wet dream at 9 years old. They're responsible for their Islam. 15. If none of that happened, and most times by 15 you have pubic, private, and you can have wet dream. No doubt you're charged. Your Islam is upon you. And of course for the females, the menstruation. Whatever time it happens, these are the signs of puberty. So the intellect, the puberty, and then qadirun ala soul. Person is able to fast. And that means the person is not feeble or sickly, too old, sometimes sicknesses are involved. You have a sickness that prevents you, you have to break your fast. It's part of the person not having the physical ability. And sometimes it's a physical ailment that won't be lifted. And ain't nothing you can do about it. So these are the three things the Shaikh mentioned as it relates to the condition of fast: intellect, pubic, and the ability with regards to the obligation of fasting. And then the Shaikh said, "Yukmaru al-subyan ala-somi." Here you command the children, but it's not a command for them from Allah. You want to raise them, instill them, and get them used to fasting. And the companions used to allow and encourage their children to fast a half a day. Give them toys and stuff to take their mind off of hunger. And that's only if that child had the ability. If they're too weak, they don't have the ability, then even the half a day, you don't force them. And this is the thing that we mentioned before. Then the issue of if it's an overcast or not. And we said the issue of overcast doesn't mean that the crescent isn't there. You just can't see it because it's overcast. And then you have seeing it with the naked eye and looking, it doesn't appear with the clear sky. If it's overcast, no matter what some scholars say and some mathab say, then you count 30 days and you start by the first of Ramadan by calculation, meaning calendar wise. And then we said, Priscilla mentioned, you all fast when your fast, your Eid is when you see it, and your starting Ramadan is when you see it, meaning if you're in a locality where people fast all together and break all together. And the last thing we said, the hadith where the Prophet mentioned that 2 people is needed for the starting of Ramadan to sight the moon, and 2 people, their witness is is needed for uses of breaking the fast. Then we said there is a narration where one particular person, he is sufficient for the starting of Ramadan. If he's a Muslim with the prior conditions, he's trustworthy and he's upright, that one testimony can be used for starting but not ending. It must be 2 witnesses for ending, and that's where we left off. So now the people, those who they don't have to fast during the time of Ramadan, they are those that can eat and drink.
Breaking the fast in Ramadan is permissible for 4 types of people.
Make sure you to the mic.
Breaking the fast in Ramadan is permissible for 4 types of people.
Finish to the next point.
The next point of view of the 4 types of people.
The next chapter.
Usama.
That's it.
Usama.
Where we done today? Yeah, where we done things like that.
Yes, so this chapter is rulings on those exempt on fasting.
No, that should have been the next chapter.
Yeah, this is it.
There's somebody giving the explanation. The next chapter, the text of the book, should have been.
Breaking the fast in Ramadan is permissible for 4 types of people.
Yeah, and then what's next?
So,
The text of the book. Should be making the days up. Qadha, Siyam Ramadan.
yeah, to make up an expiation.
Yes, so read that part.
This just says the reasons. Like it says, what will they wish?
The way way they organize the book is confusion. I mean, not to talk about them, but just speaking from a perspective of knowing the material, because the book itself, studied, I memorized it, and the explanation, that's the most popular explanation by one of the Shaikh himself, his students. Ibn Qudama wrote the book, Umdat al-Fiqh. That's the basis of what we're talking about, each line. But then there's an explanation to go to that. His student wrote the explanation to that. And then you have people that come after them, and they write further details. So this book has 3 layers. The body of the book, the explanation, and another explanation on top of it if somebody was alive. So it's confusing, but I know the book. So the point is that the people that can break their fast, the exception to the rule. And the Shaikh, he said that there's 4. This is the speech of the Qudama. Those people that can break the fast, yani, there are 4 types. The first one said the one who nada is sick. One who is sick. Yet, number 2, the one who's on a journey. One who's on a journey. Number 3, the one who is pregnant or breastfeeding. And number 4, the one who's on their menses or post-birth bleeding. So those 4 categories. And then each category may have something that makes like a subcategory. So 4 categories of people that they are exempt from fasting in the month of Ramadan. In the month. And that doesn't mean that they might not have to fast at another time. But in general, just the month of Ramadan, they've been exonerated. The first one, the one who is sick. We'll break that down. Number 2, the one who's on a journey. Number 3, the one who is pregnant or breastfeeding. And number 4, the one who has menstruation or post-birth bleeding. That's 4 categories. So the first type, the sickness. There's 2 types of sickness. Who could tell me 2 types of sickness? And don't tell me heart attack and stroke. That's not what I'm asking for.
Chronic and temporary.
MashaAllah, chronic and temporary. What's chronic? Give me an example.
Diabetes.
Diabetes. All right now. Anybody disagree with him?
Depends on what type of diabetes it is.
All right now, come on now. You gotta give further explanation, because diabetes can be type 1 or type 2.
Type 1 is insulin, where a person needs insulin and you have to get injected.
Yes.
Type 2 is just when you have some type of medication where you can take it in the morning or in the evening. You generally might have to take it during the daytime.
Yes.
So you'll be able to get away with not having to take that
Yeah.
medication.
So diabetes.
Because I'm one of those people.
Yes, look here. So the person said chronic is diabetes, for example. But diabetes is divided into the 2 categories of the question that I asked. What are the 2 types of sickness? You have chronic, that means it won't change. That's just the person's state. And then you have temporarily. Or that sickness can be remedied. So for example, diabetes, the one where the people take the insulin, the needle, that's type 1. That normally doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
Type 2, they have medicine
Mm-hmm.
that you can take, pills, you don't need the shot. And that type normally can be altered. Changing the diet is very significant to getting rid of. I know people that have changed their diet. They were on the different, pills for it, and now they don't take the pills or nothing. They don't even have it anymore. So that will be considered short term. And chronic will be the first one where you take insulin. So sickness is 2 types. They said the type la yarju yani minhu burr. They don't expect to be free from that sickness ever. In other words, I'm going to be like this until I die. Those people, they don't have to fast when Ramadan comes. Why? Because they can't. It's a hazard to them. It's a danger. And then you take the rule that we said in the first part of the lesson. If it's for you, And it's two things that are halal. You take which one, the hard or the easy?
Easier.
Easy. So it's halal to fast in Ramadan, obviously speaking, because Allah commanded you. But for you, it's also halal to break it because you have a circumstance. Which one do you take?
Easy.
A lot of people quiet in here. I think they like the hard way. Which one do you take?
Easy.
How many times have we heard the brother say, you know what, I'm fasting this Ramadan. I don't care about no insulin. My man is strong. I feel like I ain't doing nothing. And he fasts and he doesn't take his insulin and he gets himself in trouble. That's not the easy way. I'll tell you. Then you have the one who may have the flu or common cold with phlegm and mucus. So these are examples of long-term and short-term sickness. So the one who has long-term doesn't have to fast, and the one who has short-term doesn't have to fast in Ramadan. But the one who has short-term, the first thing for him is that he has to try to make it up at another time. And if he can't make it up at another time, then for him, he or she, they feed the person for each day that they're missing. So that's the first category of the sick one who doesn't have to fast. Number two, traveling. And a lot of times in the books, they'll say a seferul tawil, the long travel. Now, the Prophet didn't say long travel. But there's two types of travel. That's I'm going from here to Crowns. That's travel. Moving from one place to another. There's travel, I'm going from here to the corner. But that type of travel doesn't allow you to break your fast, just like it doesn't allow you to shorten your salat. But the travel that you go outside your city limits, you look back and you can't see your city anymore. In the books, they call that a seferul tawil, the long distance travel. So now, it has to be added when you look at traveling, because if I'm going downtown, I can't say when I'm traveling and break my fast. But that's a type of travel. But if I'm going outside of my city, outside of my town, outside of my state, outside of my country, then I'm in that second category. Those traveling, you're allowed to break your fast. Then the third one, the one who is pregnant or breastfeeding. And brothers, Allah has blessed you. You don't have to worry about that category. Brothers just say, Alhamdulillah. You don't have to worry about I'm pregnant and I'm breastfeeding. But the women, they do. And the brothers still need to know those rulings, because you may have a wife, you have a mother, you have an aunt, grandmother, you have a daughter, you have a niece. You need to know the rulings. So the one who's pregnant or breastfeeding, they also can break their fast. They can break their fast if they feel that it's difficult for them in pregnancy or in breastfeeding. Or if they feel it's a harm to the baby who's in the womb or the baby who's suckling. These are the two reasons they can break their fast. And then, of course, the lady who is mincing and on her post-birth bleeding, they break their fast. Question: the lady who breaks her fast because of menses, does she make up that fast?
Yes.
What about her salat?
No.
Does she make up her salat?
No.
Doesn't make up salat. How? When we talk about the issue of breastfeeding and pregnancy, there is a discrepancy here, because some scholars, they said, for the lady who breaks her fast due to pregnancy, it's too difficult for her. She can't go all day and not eat and drink, and she's pregnant. It's going to make her sick. She can't go all day and fast. She's pregnant. It's going to make her tired. She can't go all day, fast. She's pregnant. It may cause her to have some complications. That lady, she breaks her fast. But the lady who's strong, said, I can fast all day and I'm pregnant. Doesn't bother me. The lady who's in a situation where it's not going to make her tired, make her exhausted, she can fast. But what about if she's afraid and may do some damage to the child in her womb? Does she fast?
No. Fast.
Somebody said not at all.
I mean, she don't fast.
She don't fast. She doesn't fast. She breaks her fast. Now, what does she do if she's pregnant or breastfeeding and she doesn't fast because of her? Some scholars said the default, if it's because of her, again, if it's because of you, we take the easy way. If it's two things that are halal. If it's others involved, we take aslah, what's most correct and that which is most suitable for the occasion. So now, she's a lady who's pregnant. She breaks the fast because it's difficult for her. Which one does she do? Does she make the days up at another time, or does she go right away to feeding somebody? The lady who's pregnant, it's difficult on her, not the baby. She's concerned about, it's too much for me, I can't do it, it's making me tired, it's making me weak. She breaks her fast. Based on the rule, when it's concerning you, something that is for you, you take the easiest. Which one does she do? Make the days up at another time when she's not pregnant, or do she feed somebody based on that rule?
Make the days up. Make the days up.
If she can.
Nobody else. What's the rule that we're talking about? Very important. If it's concerning you, then you take the easiest way. إذا كان يعني لنفسك فاختار أيسر منهما. You choose the easiest between the two ways that's halal when it's you. But if it's regarding someone else, 2 people, 3 people, 50 people, that's considered a group, then you choose aslah, the most correct, the most suitable. We give the example when it comes to fasting Ramadan. Is if it's you by yourself, you fast, you don't fast based on what you heard, based on what you've seen. But if it's a group, some say we should fast tomorrow. Some say, nah, man, we shouldn't fast. The majority say we should fast. Minority disagree. What do? You fast with the majority. Why? Because it's most correct to keep from division. It's most beneficial for the group. It's not about you. So in this case, the lady and the baby, she's not afraid for the baby, his health, his well-being, while she's pregnant. She's strong. She could go all day and not eat. Doesn't bother her. She doesn't throw up. She doesn't have the morning sickness. Then there's sometimes the lady or afraid it may be too much from the baby in my stomach. Breastfeeding, the same thing. The lady can go all day. Her milk doesn't dry up. Her breasts don't get gorged because when the milk doesn't flow, that's painful. The lady try to pump, the milk dry up, her breasts ache, you can't imagine. So for that lady, I got to drink all day. I can't be fasting and I'm breastfeeding. If my milk dries up, then the baby's going to be crying, and I don't believe in formula. So she's concerned about the baby in one case. The other case, she's concerned about herself. If it's her, she has 2 things. Make it up later or feed somebody. The rule for when it's you choosing what's easier. She can make it up or she can feed somebody. Which one does she take based on that rule?
Feed somebody.
Feed somebody, because it's easier.
Somebody else? Y'all silent. 2 people said feed. I want to hear more. Let's go.
I think they switched the answers because I'm about ready to switch over to what they switched to too.
Alhamdulillah. Allahu Akbar.
Oh, yeah.
This is understanding the fiqh of the religion. Remember, the book is Umdatul Fiqh. Understanding the religion. Yeah. Now, you have some scholars who say, no, the default, she has to make the days up because Allah said, Allah said, then do it in other days. But what's the rule? The rule is you feed. Why? because she's in the category of someone who has a difficulty or some type of thing that's an abnormality. What's the difficulty? What's the abnormality? The pregnancy. Some even put it in the category, sisters don't get mad, as a sickness, because sickness is what? Something that's a defect.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when a lady's pregnant? Everything changes. Her hormones, her body. Some women, they lose teeth. Some women gain sicknesses like sugar diabetes. The baby's laying on my bladder. Oh my God. Brothers should feel sorry for their wives, man. Be good brothers, man. Go home and rub some feet, man. Give some extra money, man. Be kind to them, man. Alhamdulillah. We go through a lot. So the point is understanding when you hear this debate, why some say she should feed and why some say no, she has to make it up. The default is to make it up. But it's easier for the lady to feed somebody for each day, typically speaking. So that's why most of them say, if it's the baby, then she feeds. If it's her, she makes up the days. But some say no matter if she's afraid for herself in pregnancy and breastfeeding, or she's afraid for the baby in pregnancy and breastfeeding, it doesn't make a difference. She go automatically to fidya, feed somebody. If the animal scheme, the poor person for each day, she feeds and that's it. But if she's pregnant, but she's afraid for the baby, then they said on behalf of the baby, she feeds, and on behalf of her, she makes it up. But that's, for some people, difficult. She's not afraid for her, it's the baby. So some say she make it up for her, and she feeds because of the baby. Others said no. She feeds for her and the baby. Each person, each day, sufficient for her and the baby. Because guess what? Fast is not on the baby anyway. Not an obligation. You see? So the default is make it up, while the easier thing for the lady is to feed somebody. And this is the majority of the opinion of the scholars, that she feeds if she breaks due to pregnancy, breastfeeding, and she's afraid for herself or the baby, that she feeds. But there is a position where if it's just the baby, she makes it up and she feeds, while most of them say it's sufficient for her to just feed, whether it's for herself being in fear and pregnancy, for her own well-being or breastfeeding, or if it's for the baby that she feeds. Is that clear?
Yes.
Everybody understand?
Yes.
Clear.
Chapter on things that invalidate fasting.
Smoking reefer invalidates the fasting.
Yes.
Smoking cigarettes invalidates the fasting.
Yes.
Because some people think that's not food. I've heard people smoking the joint Ramadan, smoking the cigarette Ramadan. It's not food, it's drink. You lost your page.
Ruling on forgetfulness or compulsion.
Okay, but go back to the beginning. Those who, the one before that.
On
That's all it
invalidating.
was. Yeah.
It gets into whoever eats or drinks or
Yeah.
sex.
That's all it has.
Yeah.
What time is it?
5 o'clock.
We'll go to 5:15, inshallah, 5:20 for ladies, inshallah. Because we started late because we want the people to eat. So the one who breaks his fast, those things that, here the way they translated it is those who, the exception for them to break the fast. Now the things that if you do it, it breaks your fast. So you have the exception for the person, and then you have the thing itself that's muftarat, those that break the fast. So the things that break the fast, they normally mention eating and drinking in the daytime Ramadan, having sexual intercourse in the daytime of Ramadan, ejaculation in the daytime of Ramadan. And some of them mention throwing up in the daytime of Ramadan. So let's take the issue of eating and drinking. Eating and drinking in the daytime of Ramadan breaks the fast. But I'm going to mention the second thing combined because that's what they're going to bring next. But if you eat and drink out of forgetfulness, and brothers don't think like, how could that happen? No, it happens. The first few days, people sometimes forget. While he's fasting, he has a routine. He normally drinks Pepsi or drink coffee at this certain time. Or he's doing something and say, man, I'm thirsty. Drink. And he might not even realize, oh, right, that's right, it's Ramadan. So the Prophet mentioned, man, akala shurba nasiyan. Whoever eats or drinks while he has forgotten. Fayatimmu somahu. He said, let him continue his fast. In other words, when it comes to your mind, oh man, or somebody say, Ahi, it's Ramadan. Aren't you fasting? Don't say, oh man, I ate and drank, so you just get your burger, get your fries, give me an apple pie, I broke it. No. Prophet said, continue your fast. Why do he tell you continue your fast?
It's a lot more you forgot at the time.
Forget.
So you forgot.
Forgot. That's the baseline.
Wasn't it a mercy though? Like, even though you.
But the main reason is that you forgot. What's the things in the ayah in the Surah Al-Baqarah? Allah said, La yukallifullahu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah doesn't hold you accountable for something beyond what you can handle. And then Allah said, Rabbana la tu'akhidna, oh Allah, don't punish us. In nasina aw akhta'na. In nasina, if we forget. Aw akhta'na, or we make a mistake. We meant to do what's right, but we err it out of being human. Forgot. So when Allah Azza wa Jal, his prophet said, whoever eats or drinks forgetting, that's why he said that, because human nature, you will forget. Okay, is it a mercy from Allah? That's secondary. Do you continue your fast or not? That's another issue. But the base thing here we're talking about, something you forgot. You're not held accountable because you forgot. The salat comes in. We didn't pray Fajr. Sometimes people wake up late. Some people, Allah musta'an, forget. So let's say you woke up late, the phone rung, you took the call, you know you gotta pray, something really heavy, you talk for an hour, then you go to the bathroom, then you clean yourself up, I'm hungry, get you something to eat, 10:30, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, 12:15, now Dhuhr is at 1:09, said, man, I gotta pray Dhuhr. Then, after you pray Dhuhr, you sit on the side of the bed, and then something says, you never prayed Fajr. You say, wait a minute, I didn't pray Fajr. I forgot. Are you blameworthy for not praying Fajr? Maybe, maybe not. If you stayed up late, watching movies, playing games, so and so, that contributed to your oversleeping Fajr. That part you can't escape. That may be on you. But the fact that you forgot to make it up, when you woke up, if you forgot, there's no sin on you. So here the prophet is saying the same thing. Whoever eats or drinks out of forgetfulness, the prophet said, فَأَتِمُّ صَوْمُهُ. Let him continue his fast. فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ, because Allah is the one who fed you. So that means Allah, Azza wa Jal, like your mom opens your mouth, say, here, hon, like this. No. Allah is the reason that you ate. He allowed you to forget, and thus the Prophet said, فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ أَطْعَمَكُمْ. He fed you, meaning he gave you that as a gift. He knew you needed that nourishment. You didn't know, but Allah, he knew. So allowed you to forget. You ate just enough to get that little nourishment, and he said, oh man, I forgot. Same thing, you drink something. Allah knew you needed that little bit of drink. Oh man, I forgot. But continue your fast. Meaning, don't eat a full course meal. Don't drink a whole sweet tea. No, continue as if you never ate a drink. Now, in some of the books, you'll find the additional wording, let him throw his food up. Who has ever read that before? Have you ever read about eating and drinking on accident in a book that tells you you must throw up your food?
I never read it, but I read it before. Yeah.
You read it?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard it?
I heard it.
Raise your hands. Let me see your hands.
Yeah. Right.
Raise your hands. Let me see the count.
Got 10 count.
That part is not from the prophet. If you read it, you heard it, it's not from the prophet. It's actually the position of the Hanbali madhab. That's a Hanbali issue. They believe if you're fasting, you shouldn't have anything in your stomach. So throw it up. But the prophet said to Inna Allah ta'amakum wa saqakum. Allah gave you food and drink. So why would you have to throw up something that Allah gave you? So that part you understand, you disregard, you don't take it. But some people say, no, it's in the book. Shaykh Uthaymeen, he said, the Shaykh Uthaymeen is telling you from the Hanbali fiqh perspective. Are we obliged to follow that or the messenger?
That's message.
Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Prophet said, let them continue his or her fast. It didn't say and throw it up. Even if some companions did it, because they felt, I need to get rid of that, still that's not from the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Don't make yourself throw up, continue your eating and drinking. No, continue your fast, leave off the eating and drinking. Also, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, from amongst the issue of forgetting, is the person who forgets in Ramadan and they have intercourse. Again, it's possible. Especially if people, lovey-dovey and this and that, and it's possible. It's different from a person knowing and not controlling himself in Ramadan. It's different. The person forgets, they make up the day. They're not a person who have to do the kafara, free a slave, can't do that, fast 2 months back to back, can't do that, feed 60 people. No, if you forgot, it's different. But you didn't forget. You're on the 4th day, and now you get the desire. And you just can't resist. And you just, do it. Now that's different. That's the man in the hadith said, oh, Messenger of Allah, I destroyed myself. Mm-hmm. That's him. But the one who forgot, he's like the one who ate and drank. He forgot. And some scholars even say, for that man, he continues his fast just like the one who ate and drank on forgetfulness. Of course, you got to make ghusl to pray, but my point is that's different from a person who knows, didn't forget, and his desires overtake him. Hey, you also have the one who the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that he doesn't leave off vanity. He doesn't leave off disobeying Allah. That's from the chapter before, the things that break your fast. This is part of that. Because some people think, I didn't eat, I didn't drink, I fast. But again, we said he's smoking a cigarette. Smoking a cigarette is still putting something in the mouth. Anything you swallow, smoke, candy, seeds, liquid. Some scholars even went so far to say your own saliva, if you gather it in the back of your throat and said, bloop, you broke your fast, which that's far-fetched. Because it's from you. You might not be able to control that. But definitely, something of a substance you put in your mouth, that you yourself put in your mouth that goes down, khalas, you break your fast. So it's not just leaving off food and drink. Because Prophet said, man lam yada'a qawl az-zur. Whoever does not leave off qawl az-zur. Out fi riwayatin shahadat az-zur. Either speaking falsehood or witnessing falsehood. So if you take qawl az-zur, qawl means speech. So you're talking nonsense during the fast. Alaikum salam. You're talking about people during the fast. You're backbiting, slandering, or you listening, to Richard Pryor. We should be listening to Richard Pryor anyway, almost. African Americans know about Richard Pryor. Don't act like y'all don't. I think some of y'all probably still listen to Richard Pryor. Hold on. Almost. Watching comedy. You know what I'm saying? Watching, the guiding light as the world turns. All those soap operas. This one speaking with that one, and this one doing this and that. All dunya. All of this is bearing witness either by the eyes, the ears, or you're speaking about something of sin and disobedience. The prophet said that that person who doesn't leave those actions, فَلَيْسَ لِلَّهِ حَاجَةً أَنْ يَدَعْ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ وَكَمَا قَالَ. Then Allah don't want you to just leave your food and drink. So if you left food and drink, but you're doing these other things, you broke your fast. You left food and drink, but you smoking cigarettes. Well, the brothers complaining. The brothers stand outside in Ramadan smoking. They do it in a Muslim country. Smoking in Ramadan. Not supposed to smoke. Somebody could say it's debatable, it's makruh, it's haram, akid. But one thing people can agree. Should you inhale or ingest anything while you're fasting? No. The answer is no. So that breaks your fast. Smoking. You smoke, you got to make that day up. You ate, you drank, purposely, you got to make that day up. SubhanAllah. And again, falsehood, disobedience, being witnessed by the eyes, the tongue, the ears. The Prophet said, Allah doesn't accept, la yahtaj, here la yakbalu, the scholar said. Allah is not in need. He doesn't need it. It means Allah is not going to accept from you your fast. You're leaving off eating and drinking. Allah won't accept that while you still do the other stuff of bearing false witness, doing things of sin and disobedience, and another word in what he rewrites in jahl, things of ignorance. That's why we mentioned Richard Pryor. It's ignorance. We're talking about people, mama, and saying somebody's head is big, you laugh, that's funny as heck. But it's jahl. The Prophet cursed the comedians, those who make money by insulting people or falsehood. So all of that is in the category of breaking the fast. Look at the Arab comedian, the Pakistani comedian. It doesn't make a difference who it is. In the Ramadan fasting, you're supposed to abandon all of that. The time is
5 seconds.
10 more minutes. Sure.
Ruling on forgetfulness or compulsion. If one does it absent-mindedly or is forced, his fast is nullified.
That's from the body of the book. That sounds like explanation.
After yeah,
Yeah, we want the next thing from the book itself.
Acts that do not invalidate the fast.
yeah, but it goes in there, flies or something, 400 juice.
Okay.
Read that.
That's part of the text, yeah.
If flies or dust fly into one's mouth, or one rinses the mouth or sniffs water into the nostrils and water reaches his pharynx, or if one thinks,
Give in the mic. Go back to the beginning. Flies and dust.
if flies or dust fly into one's mouth, or one rinses the mouth or sniffs water into the nostrils and water reaches his pharynx, or if one thinks about sex and ejaculates, or injects liquid into his urethra, or has a wet dream, or is overwhelmed by vomiting, his fast is not nullified.
So those things that Shaikh mentioned in his book have to be clarified because they're kind of almost in the category of the things that was previously mentioned. Like, for example, eating and drinking. When you think about the word in Arabic, akal, shurb, we think it in English terms, akal, eating, shurb, drinking. But akal means consumption. Doesn't necessarily mean it's a food product. If you consume it, you use it, you have a benefit from it, then in Arabic this means akal. Tabaraka wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ إِلَىٰ أَمْوَالِكُمْ وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَهُمْ إِلَىٰ أَمْوَالِكُم. And do not, but the word ta'kul means to don't eat. But Allah's not talking about eating in the mouth and digesting and going to the bathroom. He's talking about using. Do not take the wealth of the orphan and use the word eat. Do not eat the wealth of the orphan. Do not mix the wealth of the orphan, the money of the orphan with your money and use it like it's your money. You know, can huban kabira. It's a great, major, magnificent sin. So the term eating is not just used in the way that we contextualize it for eating food, drink, snacks. Here, that's why the Shaikh mentions if a fly go in your mouth or dust go in your mouth, doesn't break your fast. So people think that it breaks your fast. And sometimes you might be talking and say, oh, something just flew in my mouth. It happened to me. Right in this masjid, in fact. Outside, it happens. Dust. You live in an environment that's dusty. You shake something, cleaning, dust, get in your mouth, in your nose. If you put water in your mouth, the Prophet has strongly told us, encouraged us not to gargle when we do the fast in Ramadan. But putting water in your nose is a part of wudu. The Prophet didn't tell you not to do that. But he said, don't, like this. So if you put water in your nose, sometimes you'll sniff so hard that it go down the back of your throat. That doesn't break your fast. Although it went down the back of your throat, it didn't go in through the mouth. The technical thing, through the mouth. You take an eye drop, sometimes you can taste it. Something in your ear because the eyes, ears, is connected to what? Don't say your funny bone. What is your eyes and ears connected to from the inside of your body? The passageway.
Throat.
There you are. Yes. So sometimes you can taste the eye drop, something in your ear, doesn't break your fast. Similarly, dust in the mouth, a fly in your mouth, a mosquito in your mouth, doesn't break the fast. The Shaikh also mentioned, Mada, if you ejaculate. It's not that you purposely, but situations make you excited. Just like wet dream. If you have a wet dream in Ramadan, it doesn't break your fast. You just have to take the ghusl to pray. Not like you doing something or someone else to you to make you ejaculate. So it doesn't break your fast. If you have a wet dream or something makes you excited to the point that you're ejaculate. Now, don't purposely do something, look at something to arouse yourself. But sometimes things happen in your mind, or like I said, when you sleep. That's what the Shaikh is talking about. What else?
Mistakes.
Mistake. We mentioned that. Mistake in eating and drinking. Vomit. Vomit is difference of opinion between the scholars if that thing breaks your wudu and if it breaks the fast. If you intentionally vomit, the scholars of Islam have said you've broken your fast. But if you vomit on accident or you get sick, something makes you throw up, that doesn't break your fast.
Shaikh, elaborate on thinking that it's Fajr and eating.
The issue of, is that there?
Yeah, and then not knowing if it's Maghrib.
Okay, tell you. These two, the issue of starting and ending the fast. If it's Fajr, 5 o'clock, and let's say your clock is slow, 25 minutes. But you don't know it. Or the clock is slow, 15 minutes. But you don't know it. And you say, well, I have 15 more minutes. But really, it's 5 o'clock. You're eating, and the clock says 5:15. And then you realize later, oh man, my clock is, slow. Fajr been in 15 minutes ago. That's what you're talking about?
Yes. Yep. No.
Then in that case, doesn't break your fast. Although Fajr was in, you ate on mistake. You didn't know. Fajr was in. You should be fasting. But for you, you eat in suhoor. But it's a mistake. You thought it was Fajr? No. You thought it was before Fajr. You thought you still had time. So you continue that fast. Just like if you ate and drank on accident, if you start eating thinking it's not Fajr, the mistake, the ruling for mistake is just like the ruling for forgetfulness. You're not held accountable. You keep up your fast. The ruling for forgetting is just like the ruling for mistake. You keep up your fast. There's no sin on you. As for the Maghrib, then there's a difference of opinion. Although most scholars say if you break too early and you thought it was Maghrib, there's no sin on you. You have that whole day credit worth of fasting. There's no sin on you if you broke too early. But some of them say if you break too early, then you have to make that day up. But in reality, if it's a mistake, you thought it was Maghrib, like for example, if it's overcast, you can't see. And you're thinking, you're estimating, and you eat, but it's not Maghrib yet. Somebody come and say, okay, it's not Maghrib yet. So I didn't have a clock, it looks like. So no, you still got 10 minutes. Then in that case, you what? You keep fasting. Don't eat no more. You wait another 10 minutes, then you break your fast all over again. Then you break your fast all over again because that was a mistake. You really didn't know. You were trying to judge, trying to estimate. So in that case, you would continue your fast, and when you're sure it's Maghrib, then break it, meaning a second time, which will be the real breaking of the fast. And if you broke it too early, and you found out the next day that you were too early, then there's no sin on you. You don't have to make it up because you did that on mistake. Now,
What's after that?
chapter on voluntary fasting. Wanna touch it?
so we basically skimmed through the book with regards to the fasting, the general and basic verdicts. You could always get more. You may always find somebody saying something different, but what I gave you was what's Roger, what's predominant from the text, but most of the scholars say with regards to the back and forth, the difference of opinion that will help you in your fast. And the only thing we have that we didn't cover that may be relevant is the zakat al-fitr or sadaqat al-fitr, because it goes with the issue of fasting. And inshallah wa ta'ala, I'll end with that point. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, hadith in Bukhari, Muslim, Ibn Umar, he said, فرد النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم صدقات الفطرة صدقات الفطرة وفي رواية زكاة الفطرة. Said the Prophet deemed it to be fard, the word fard, the paying a zakat for the end of Ramadan. Abu Bakr Siddiq, when he talked about paying the zakat, he said, فرض النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم الزكاة. So the Prophet and deemed it to be farad, paying the zakat. So these two proofs, the Prophet makes farad, and Allah, He makes farad. The people from the Hanafi Madhab, they said, no, Allah is the only one that makes farad. The Prophet doesn't make farad. وَيَفَرِّقُ بَيْنَ الْفَرْءِ وَالْوَاجِبِ. And they differentiate between farad and the term wajib. In English terms, they mean both. You got to do it. If you don't do it, there's a sin on you. And if Allah don't forgive you, you could be punished. That's the ruling and the meaning of farad and wajib. Something you have to do. يُثِيبُ فَاعِلُهُ. You will be rewarded if you do it. وَيُعَاقِبْ تَارِكُهُ. And the one who leaves it, he sets himself up for punishment. So the Prophet said, Sadaqatul Fitra. Ibn Umar said, Furida, meaning the Prophet deemed it farad, which shows the Prophet makes farad, Allah makes farad, and the Prophet makes farad. Of course, the Prophet doesn't do it on his own. It's Allah who told him it's farad, and then he tells the people, this is farad. So in other words, farad is not just in the Quran. Farad is also in the Sunnah, because the Prophet used the term saying things of farad, just like Allah mentioned farad in the Quran. It's very important. Second thing is that Hadith al-Umar, Allah Ta'ala anhu, said, Sa'a min al-ta'am, yani a measurement of food. So most scholars from the Ahlul Sunnah, they say if you give the zakat in other than food, it's a bid'ah. Because the Prophet and them, they had money during that time. The dinar or dirham, Ta'is, Abdul Dinar, Abdul Dirham, Prophet said, destroy. Cursed is the one who worships the dinar and the dirham. Making everything about your currency, Prophet deemed that to be a type of worship. So he can't say cursed is the one who worships the currency if the currency wasn't there. So they had it. While they gave food. So that's the origin of Zakat al-Fitr. But in the Hanafi Madhab, and some from the Maliki Madhab, they said you Jews, Qimatul Nuqut, you can give some money for Zakat al-Fitr. And why did they say that? Because they're talking about the purpose of that day is the issue that we're talking about. Why is it legislated Sadaqah or Zakat al-Fitr in the first place? To the left. Why is it legislated? What's the purpose of the act? Quickly.
Help the less fortunate.
Help the less fortunate. Can I get an amen? I mean, nah. Allah. Somebody else, quickly. What's the purpose of zakat or sadaqat al-fitra? Purpose. Reason why?
To join the celebration.
To join celebrations. Somebody else said to give to the people in the community. Yes. And so the people won't feel left out on that day. Because the Prophet described Eid as Yom al-Farah, a day of happiness, enjoyment. Imagine you don't have no nice clothes, no food, no drink. Everybody's eating, drinking, nice clothes, you have nothing. You think you're going to be happy or sad?
Sad.
People enjoying themselves. You going to enjoy yourself? No. Is it, in technical terms, considered Eid? Nope. Because part of Eid is eating and drinking and being happy. So this is why it's legislated. And one of the points here, when you think about sunnah, when you think about actions, you also have to know what's the aim, the maqsood. So sometimes the goal is the aim, not the thing itself. So that's why some of the Hanafi scholars of the past and a small group of the Malikis, they said you can do it. Others said only when you have no other choice or when there is a need. So in our case, how many people have EBT? Food stamps, or as the Arabs say, food stamps. How many people have how many people have a food stamps? Brother, you have a food stamps? How many people, let's be honest,
A lot.
in this society?
A lot, yeah.
Y'all act like y'all know what time it is.
Yeah.
I don't know people have food stamps.
Yeah.
How many people get WIC for the babies? Milk, cheese, eggs.
Majority of the
Majority of the earth.
population.
How many people can go to a place and get food? Well, like some people said, we never heard of a food bank into the COVID-19 food bank. You get your card, you stand in line, you put it in a machine, you press the numbers, and instead of money, food comes out of the machine. Is that what we mean? No. We go to a place where they give you food. Food bank. So food, in other words, in America, in Canada, Great Britain, certain places, Saudi, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, and it's plentiful. If you were to bring pounds of dates, pounds of raisins, pounds of wheat, pounds of flour, pounds of sugar, bags, this whole masala full of that type of food, what do you think would happen after a week? Would all of that food be gone, or we still have food laying around?
Still have it.
Somebody else? What do you think?
Waste.
Waste. Somebody else, quickly, so we can end.
Be gone.
Be gone? You think so?
Some over enough. It's not gonna go.
Most cases, to be left over.
People they have a lot of food in the house. They didn't
To be left over.
Yes.
I mean, this is by experience. We know, like, this is happening. Stuff rotten. People bringing stuff. It's hot. Don't mention the middle of the summer. A place with no AC. It's hot. So this is why at this day and time, most people just say it's $12, $11, $14, based on what it takes for a meal or, you know, what the standard the people figured out. So it's because of the society, the environment, the need, and most important, the maqsood, the aim of that sunnah. But some people still say bid'ah, this, that. That's why in Yemen, wallahi, they're going to take that food. 85% of the people dying from starvation. They're going to take all of that. Places that, the Gambia, where we were at, West Africa, they take all of that. But in societies like this, you're going to incur the sin of wasting. You're going to incur the sin of people still not having, because people will say, I don't need it, I got food. But the clothing, going to a place, to have fun, as long as they use it for those things that are part of Eid, then those scholars said it's okay. But they go buy a couch. They take the money and go buy a car. They said it's not permissible. There has to be something that is part of the Eid celebration. Has to be something that is part of why the Prophet told you to do the Sadaqah al-Fitr. So, inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala, that part I wanted to mention. It's in the book, but we didn't cover it, but I thought I would throw it in there because it's a lot of times the issue that comes up, and to explain it, I think it was proper. Inshallah, tabarak wa ta'ala. And let's have questions in here.
I got two.
So, Sabaka and Nabina Muhammad.
So the first question is, as far as the vomiting, right? You gave clarity. But what I was gonna say is, for the one saying you gotta vomit the food, isn't forcefully making yourself vomit, doesn't that actually break your fast? If you make yourself vomit by force, intentionally?
That you ate, so you already broke the fast by eating. Two different categories, but the topic of vomiting came up in both. Throwing up intentionally and making yourself throwing up the food that you ate.
But for the forgetfulness, if you ate by mistake.
But I'm explaining to you.
Okay.
You have two things. Both of them have to do with eating. So you ate, you forgot. Now you feel I want to get that food out of my stomach. So that's where the vomit comes in that case, which we said don't do that. If you ate on mistake, leave it. As the Prophet told you, continue your fast. But now, you yourself make yourself throw up. You didn't eat anything. But you think if I throw up, then I can eat because I threw up. Because a lot of the scholars say vomit breaks what? The fast. Although intentionally it does, on accident it don't. So somebody said, man, I'm hungry. Let me go throw up so I can grub. I mean, how do people do it? Said, boy, what you in that bathroom doing? I'm sick. His guy's finger down his throat. Trying to throw up. Come out holding the stomach. What's the matter, boy? I'm sick. Mom, can I have some soup? I don't feel good. Can I finish my burger from yesterday? He made himself throw up potentially. And the other one you ate on accident, but you believe I really shouldn't have the food in my system, although I forgot, let me throw that up. But the prophet told you don't, or you forget. And the other one, someone is throwing up intentionally, that in itself, and he breaks the fast. That in itself breaks the fast. Now throw up on accident doesn't break your fast. Continue your fast. Or you're sick, you throw up. Continue your fast, although you're sick. So vomiting, two different categories, but these are the two times that people mention the vomit, intentionally and as it relates to unintentional.
Two quickly turned into three, but they quit. So the brother was taking medication because he used to get seizures. He fasted, he didn't take it, and that little bit after Sahur, he ended up having a seizure because he wasn't taking his medication. Now, you already clarified he should have took the medication because of that, but is there sin on him, Islamically? Because...
What's the question?
Is he in sin for not taking the medication because
it caused him
to have a seizure?
Yes, he's in sin. That's the reason why they said the person will have
aspect of it, like you say Fajr is at 5:41 a.m. Maghrib is at 7:42 p.m. Like, how tightly do you hug that, or
This is the last